What is up, parents, mostly parents, teachers, and therapists who might like this video because it might give you some insights about how my mind works around this stuff. But parents, if you are looking for an executive function coach, I get a lot of questions about that. I created an interview questionnaire essentially that will guide you so that when you contact the coaches that you are looking for, you know exactly what to ask. And I'm going to explain to you how I did this and why I ask each question I ask so that you know exactly what to ask for yourself so that you can find the right coach for your child. So if you're looking for an executive function coach or an ADHD coach, I get a lot of questions about this. I get so many that I've made. If you go to my YouTube channel, Executive Function or Seth Perler on YouTube, and you look up the word coach in their search, you'll see how to coach your child, but you also see how to choose a coach, how to find a coach. So you can see that I have a couple of different ones here. Well, this one will help also, but on this particular one, I am giving you a script and I'm giving you the exact questions to ask. So let's dive into it. Here is exactly how this thing works. So you can print this off on my site. Basically, here are some questions I might ask. I don't want you to think that these are the best questions. Like, pick the ones that work for you. I do recommend interviewing at least 3 coaches before choosing one. Please listen to me on this. I've seen a lot of people go in the wrong direction with a coach or a therapist or a tutor or whatever. Don't waste your time spinning your wheels. Like, find someone that really resonates with you. So at least talk to 3 before making your choice. And obviously, feel free to print this. It's a 3-page document. You can probably cut and paste it and customize it for yourself if you want as well. And then you can add your own questions on the bottom. So I left some space here for how to do that. I also linked to my page here. So this is my page on my site. So this is my site, sethperler.com. And if you click on offerings and coaching, it takes you to this page. And this talks about how I coach. And this might help you think of good questions to ask, because I am not taking on people, but I leave this up anyhow because it really does help you sort of know how at least somebody does this in the industry, and you can pick out what questions to use. So what I do first here is I give you a script. Now you can do this on voicemail or you can do this talking to them live, but basically this is the gist of what I would say. Hey, what's up? We're looking for a coach to help our child, and we're contacting 3 or 4 to find a great match. Our child is this age, this grade, and goes to this kind of school. And one of our biggest concerns is maybe it's procrastination or failing grades or school refusal, whatever. We have some questions. You have 10 or 15 minutes right now, or is there a better time? So this way you can figure out what you know exactly what to say to them in like 20 or 30 seconds to get the conversation started or to reschedule. Cool? Good. Let's go on. So simple. Next, if they're ready to talk, here are some questions. Now, the first one I do think is the most important question. What is your approach to executive function coaching, or how does your process work exactly? So each coach has their own way of doing things, and you want to understand if they say, well, I meet with kids once a week for 30 minutes on Zoom, and you know that your kid needs a lot more handholding and that they're failing a bunch of classes right now and they need a lot more time and they need home visits or this or that, then you're going to know right away that their approach doesn't work for you. But just that's a very open-ended question. What's your approach? You really want to understand how that coach works. So my approach is going to be very different from other people's. There's no right or wrong approach. You just want to understand their approach. Next, I would ask them, what are the benefits of working with you? Because everybody has their own strengths. Everybody's different. I'm very unconventional, for example. So there are benefits to that with me. But that also means that I am not for certain families. People don't all want somebody who's unconventional. Some people want a very traditional coach, somebody who's really going to focus on grades and grade point averages and things like that that I don't care about. So you got to find somebody that really will help meet the goals that are important for you and your family. Ask them, how do you know if it's a good match? How do you know if you're going to be good for my kid and my kid's going to resonate with you? How do you know that? So I'd be interested. Now, what I do in my practice is I do what's called a meet and greet. So when I have coaching, live coaching in my office, usually, which obviously with the pandemic, things are very different. But basically what I do is I do a meet and greet, which is, hey, let's meet for 15 or 30 minutes with your kiddo, see if they're into it. Because if they're not into it, I can't help them. And I don't like to work with people who aren't ready, who aren't there. So how do you know if it's a good match with them? Now, I would ask, and I get this question a lot from parents, how long do you typically work with someone? Or how do you know when someone doesn't need coaching anymore? Or how do you know when someone's done with your coaching process? Is it a one semester, one and done? Is it a year long? Is it hour by hour and you just sort of randomly go? Is there a program? Is there a package? How does it work and how do you know when you're done? So, my goal for me as a coach, my goal is that you don't need me. That's the goal. My goal is to work myself out of a job. But the reason that's my goal is because I want your student, I don't care if they're a college student or a fourth grader or whatever, I want them independent. I want them to have these skills on their own to be able to navigate school and life. So for me, it varies. I've worked with one student I worked with for about 5 years, and I've worked with other students for 2 or 3 years. That is not uncommon. But sometimes students are in a pretty decent place and they need to polish up some skills and stuff, and maybe one semester can really help them turn the corner. So it's very different, but you do want to ask them to understand how do you know when you're done? How do you know when you're done? I would also ask, do you work with parents as well, and in what capacity? So for me, I don't believe I can do my job without working with the parents. And I know that there are differences. Sometimes there are step parents involved. Sometimes the kid goes to different homes with different parents if the parents are divorced or things like that. Either way, it's important for me to get parent involvement. This isn't just about the kid. This is about getting support from me, the parents, the teachers. This is a whole team effort to help this kiddo. But anyhow, I would ask that. Do you work with parents and what does that look like? And what if there's an urgent situation? Can we get help sooner? So I have clients that I work with where it's they're in like a group program where there's not a lot of Seth, and then I have people who have a lot of time with me. And when I'm working with people who have a lot of time with me, I like for them to have my phone number. I like for them, if there's an emergency, to be able to text me or email me and be like, Seth, just found out my student is failing everything, and can we get on the phone the next 24 hours, or can we get on Zoom real quick? So I like to give that flexibility. That's not right for all coaches. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but you do want to know, what if there something urgent comes up? What if something really urgent comes up and you really need their help right away and it's not at the scheduled time? How do they do that? If they do that, do they connect with the school, the teachers, or the therapists? Now, I was a teacher for 12 years, so that experience helps me a lot. I have a ton of therapists in my network, friends that I know that are therapists, so I'm very involved in that world. I will often have parents say, can we connect you with a therapist so that you two can be on the same page and figure out what each other are doing so that we can better help this child? Or there might be a teacher who, really wants to understand how I'm working with the kid and what they can do in the classroom or things like that. But you might want to speak with a school counselor, the coach to speak with a school counselor, the admin, or the team of teachers. You might want the coach to email them or things like that. If it's the end of the semester and your student is failing everything, or has a couple of Fs or a bunch of missing work, and you need to know, wow, how do we get our kiddo caught up? You might want to ask, do you connect the schools or the teachers or the therapists? Because some coaches will, some won't. And that may or may not be an appropriate question for you, but that's why I made this form, so you can pick what you want. Where does coaching take place? Do you do home visits? So in normal days, when I have an office, I do home visits and I help them get their area organized. And do you do office visits? So I had an office as well where we would do sometimes parent groups, sometimes working with the kids, etc. Do you do Zoom? Do you meet in coffee shops? If it's a college student, do you meet at the dorm? Do you meet at their apartment? Do you meet at the library? Do you meet at a coffee shop? Where do you meet? So different coaches have different ways of approaching this, but you want to know that. How much experience do you have with this age group? So if you're working with someone, if your child is a fifth grader, or if your child's in graduate school, how much experience do they have with the age of your child? You also want to ask, what is your background? How did they get into it? For me, I was that kid, first of all, that struggled. So that is a lot of what drives me, and from a mission perspective, and also is one of the benefits of working with me, is that I've been there. I understand it. I get it. I feel it. But what's their background? I was a teacher as well, so I understand the teacher area. Were they a teacher? Did they go to a coaching training? Did they coach other people? Did they struggle with it themselves? How did they get into it? How long have they been doing that? You want to understand their background a little bit. Now, just because they don't have executive function struggles themselves, or they're very, very linear or very structured, and that does not mean they're not the right coach. Because let me tell you, sometimes people who are super extraordinarily organized, and they can be just amazing coaches. They just can see the matrix really well. So anyhow, point is, what's your background? Next, what if your child has something more specific that you wonder if they have experience with? So maybe your child has a trauma history. Maybe they're gifted and talented in 2E. Maybe they have a learning disability or physical disability, a learning challenge. Ask them if they have experience with that so that you can know. Ask them if they have support materials that you can use. Like maybe the coach has booklets for you, or PDFs, or checklists that work really well with clients, or workbooks or charts, or an online course, or things like that. Ask them, what if it's not the right fit? How do people stop working with you? Is there a refund policy? Is there a prorated refund? Are you just out the money for the semester or the school year? Is it easy? Is it challenging? Does it feel salesy? Does it feel clean? So ask them about, what if it's not the right fit, or it's just, or you're done, or you're not seeing results, or whatever. Obviously ask how they do payments. And how do you know if you're ready for coaching? Because I've had students and families who just are not ready. Other things need to be addressed first. It's really not the time. There are much deeper things going on that really require attention. Ask them, how do you know if you're ready? How do you help kids who are very resistant to help? Now, that is almost all of the students that I work with. So the way that Seth describes it, I believe that if you're a coach and you're not helping students learn to work with their own resistance, then you're missing the boat. You're not even, I don't even think, I mean, that's so core to effective coaching, is how to help people deal with their own resistance, their own mindsets, and things like that. But I would be asking them, what do you do about that? Because if they're so hands off that they just say, hey, do this, and this week, and then the next week your child hasn't done any of it, and they're resistant to all of it, and they've never worked with how to work with that, that's not going to get you very far. How do you help kids with emotional regulation? Do they even know what emotional regulation is? Do they do any breath work, any meditation, any mindfulness, any sorts of things to work with the nervous system? Ask them. Now, this I think all of you should ask. What else should we be asking? What have we forgotten to ask you? What do we need to be asking? And just see what they say. And then, cool. Now, how do we get started with you? What are the next steps? If we end up wanting to work with you, what are the next steps we do? What's your process to get people started? So ask that. And again, this is my coaching page here, so you can do that. You can add your own questions here on this chart. And again, at the top of this, I just kind of introduce it. I give you a script. I give you questions. You obviously do not have to answer all these questions. Respect their time, and so on and so forth. You can look at my YouTube channel and find the other videos on this. Obviously, if you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, comment, and do all the things to support me in growing my YouTube channel and stuff like that. You can go to my website, sethperlo.com, and go to the coaching here, which will lead you to this page. And obviously, I'm going to give you this. So that's what I got for you today. My name is Seth Perlo. I'm an executive function coach. I help struggling students navigate this thing called education so that they can have a good life. If you like what I'm doing, again, like, subscribe, comment, and go to my site and get my freebies. And finally, I want to wish you peace of mind, peace in your heart, and most of all, connection with your kiddo. Real connection and quality time with your kiddo. Have a fantastic day. I will see you soon.